Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Gaia Ferreira. You will just love this. Everybody on the show is very thoughtful, but this is a very special person who I'm going to introduce to you right now, Gaia.
Hi, Mindy. How are you today?
Well, I'm well, and everybody is very excited to hear from you. I know we have quite a few contacts and friends in common, but the podcast audience is growing, and there's lots of people all around the world who I think are going to love what you have to say. Please tell everybody what you're up to in the world.
Thank you very much. So I am a coach, mentor. I really don't like those titles very much, actually, because people automatically have an idea of what that is. And I don't think you can really put a lot of what I do into a box, right? So I work with entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, and I just help them have a bigger impact on their terms. So I like to think of it as setting their soul on fire by giving them the meaning, the joy, the happiness that they've always dreamt of having, but maybe along the way got trapped in the anxiety, the stress, the to-dos, the shoulds, the overwhelming list of responsibilities that you have as a business owner, and that personal side kind of drifted off a little bit. So I help my clients find their way back to that core essence of who they are, that vision that they've always had, and put it in place so that they can keep growing their companies. They can keep growing the joy in their life on their terms.
Well, I'm sure everybody is feeling that joy emanating from you. The phrase, of course, that I love is setting your soul on fire. What does that actually look like? You can tell us about how you came to understand this or any client work that you're doing, but that's a very vivid picture.
Yeah, so it's really about passion and joy. And if you think about every day now, like we are so bombarded with information, like it's all around us. It's in the news, it's in the newspapers, it's in our friends, it's our phones, it's the laptop. It's like we are overrun by data and analysis and logic. And it takes away, like it makes us really intelligent human beings, but it takes away that part of us that connects us to our soul, right? It doesn't give us the time or the space or even the permission often to just sit back and acknowledge the life we have in a way that's meaningful to us, because there's inevitably always a comparison. We're inevitably always looking at what everyone else has versus what we have. Where are they versus where we are? What is the size of their house or the kind of the car that they drive versus what we have, right? Even if we don't do it intentionally, it's always there because human beings are competitive by nature. Like animals are competitive by nature. We all want to be alpha. We all want to be significant and have meaning. Right. So we inevitably do this. So inevitably, the pursuit of happiness is what makes us unhappy. And what I do with my clients is just take pause and help them to really understand what makes them unique in their model of the world, in their language, in their soul, their spirit, their essence. And it's a really fascinating journey because if you think about it, there's something that is undercurrent to our existence that's there, whether we're in stress or whether we're at peace, right? And it's once we connect to that bit, what I call our genius, our natural innate genius, we like the conflict that we have, the stress that we have, the pressure that we have starts to disappear because we don't look at the world from a place of achievement. We look at the world from a place of being us. Like the achievement is really being us. And it just takes the weight off our shoulders. And I can tell you myself, like, one of the greatest gifts about looking at the world through this lens instead is that our body actually learns to relax, and it learns to do what it was always meant to do, which is give us information, right? We know the big bits of information, like when we're tired, it's time to sleep. When our stomach growls, it's time to eat. But there's so much more information our body is giving us that we have forgotten to pay attention to because we're in this drive of like, go, 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 do more, do more, do more. And so when we pause and when we live life from our terms instead of their terms, we get to tap into that information again. And we get to really sense what is our happiness, what is our joy, what is our fulfillment, what is our peace. And one of the gifts that I've had was that my shoulders stopped hurting. My neck stopped getting so creaky, because this is where our body carries responsibility. And that is such a gift to like, just let that go, release that. We breathe easier. We can breathe deeper. And, breath is the source of life. So everything changes, right? And when our body changes, everything around us changes. We just have the space to grow.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So many threads. And I'm just deciding which one to pick up on first, because I will pick you up on some of these things. The first concept, of course, thoughtful leaders tend to be people who are thought leaders, and so they have achieved things. And your use of the word achievement was really interesting, because you're not saying that you don't have to achieve things in life. At least that's not what I think you're saying. I heard you say being yourself is an achievement. Can you elaborate a bit more on this concept? Because the thoughtful leaders who listen to this podcast, I think, might really want to understand how they can achieve and yet be true to their soul, like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. It's a great question. So achievement in our modern world looks like having more, have more money, have a better car, have a bigger house, have more friends, have a bigger network, have another company, have another, the proverbial notches on the bedpost, right? And like what I've seen happen with my clients is just exhaustion, because having more, it's like retail therapy, right? It feels good for that first little instant gratification bit. And then inevitably you're looking for that next thing. And so there's never, it's not that you want to get to a destination. It's just that the destination is nowhere. Like you could be the richest person on the planet and still be the loneliest person on the planet. And from the model that I work on is like true happiness, true fulfillment is feeling good on the inside. And that has nothing to do on the outside. I mean, the question I like to ask people is, would you rather be wealthy and alone or happy and poor, right? Like our society has been built on materialism. And there's a lot of studies out there and books written about this, about how it all came about, the idea of marketing and selling the way we have now, right? At the end of the day, we've become these consumers, and we're consuming happiness. We're not being happy. And again, I'm not crazy about the word happiness. So I want to just say happiness to me is a little bit like, it is the word that everybody uses, but it is a little bit of a momentary thing. Like we're happy when we hear a good joke. We're happy when a loved one, gives us a nice hug. We're not going to be happy at a funeral. Well, maybe in certain cases, but most of the cases, we're not happy at a funeral. But we can still be joyful. We can still be fulfilled. We can still feel at peace with ourselves. And that to me is a much greater achievement in life. And that is to, no matter what we have, we are content within. That peace internally is there. And when we work from this space, knowing that we are enough, and I know that sounds a little bit of a cliche right now with personal development trending more onto this side of the spectrum, like, if we really think about it, most of us don't feel we are enough. That's why we keep doing more. That competitive streak is really about not feeling like enough is enough. But when we connect to the fact that we are enough, that our existence is not here to have, but to be and to give back and to share and to let others be more, it's a completely different energy that creates. And we're here to create. So some people create businesses, some people create friendships, some people create art, but we're all here to create. But it's about creating from a place of being us, being our genius, not winning some kind of unwritten contest that the marketing world has set out for us.
I love that. And listeners, I hope you're enjoying and maybe taking notes, or maybe just sitting back and taking it in. The soul word is the next word I'm going to pick up on, because it has those woo-woo connotations. And in my books, I tend to give a woo-woo warning because some people really are uncomfortable, but maybe that's just because they don't work with that every day. But, we are working with leaders, both of us, and we appreciate that something new can be uncomfortable. But can you talk about the soul and joyful, soulful living and what you're saying in a kind of non-woo-woo way?
Sure. So when I mention the word soul, I'm not mentioning about any particular religious belief system or, this I don't know, this like little ball of ghost that goes up to heaven or down to hell, or that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the soul that created like jazz music, right? That spirit that is in all of us, that essence, that spark that makes us unique. So the thing that gets left behind from us after we've left the room, right? That the essence of us, that's the soul. And we can all we can all connect to our soul from our level of passion. So what I've seen a lot is the personal development world has been very much, we'll go back a second here, but it has been very much on the achievement perspective. So do this, work harder, hustle, hustle, hustle. If you're not doing more, you're really on the track to failure. Like, this isn't enough. 22 hours a day, that's not enough work. Do 23 hours a day, right? Like, it's hustle, hustle, hustle. And it just, again, people get exhausted. Like, I'm exhausted just talking about it. And what it does over a long span of time is it kills the soul, like it dampens the soul. And we know this from our level of passion in life. If you get up in the morning feeling like, ugh, another day, right? You're taking that big sigh before you even gotten out of bed. That's a really good hint that passion is waning. And that's not a way to live. That's like a way to get through the day, but it's not a way to feel alive. So when I talk about the soul and lighting it on fire, I mean really ramping up that passion, that all these parts of you that just make you feel alive. I don't know I can't remember exactly how the quote goes, but it's something like, some men live 1,000 lives and die once, and some men live once and die 1,000 deaths. Right? I want to live 1,000 lives and die once. Like, those people who are like out there with the stress, with the anxiety, with the overwhelm, with I got to do more. It's not enough. That responsibility that is about doing, not about being. They're dying 1,000 deaths every day. Like, every day they're going to bed thinking, this isn't enough. I got to do more. Right? And then they wake up the next morning with the weight of the world on their shoulders already with a list of things to do. And I don't want anybody out there who like relates to this. I want to challenge you to wake up in the morning and ask yourself, forget what I have to do. Who should I be today? Like, what should I be today? And maybe today it's just being thankful that you're 6 feet over, not 6 feet under, and just taking a breath and saying, you know what? This list of things to do will get done tomorrow, or can get done by my assistant, or right? Like, delegate. Learning to delegate and leveraging the resources around us is such a gift. But to just learn to be happy, like be joyful. How can you be more at peace with yourself today? How can you be more connected to the people around you today? How can you take a pause and look at the colors on the leaves of the trees today? I live in Ireland. Green is like a very prominent color in Ireland. But when I sit back and really just look, like I'm thankful enough to have a giant park in front of my house. When I just sit back and look at the leaves, look at the grass, look at the plants, the flowers that are growing everywhere, there are so many beautiful shades of green. Some actually look to be glowing. And just the 5 seconds that it takes to connect to that level of green is enough to just bring me back to center, connect back to who I am, the importance of being me. And it's enough of a pause that all my to-do lists don't feel so heavy anymore.
Wow. I was just about to ask you for some practical tips, some things that the listeners can do, some thoughts and questions. You have to be thoughtful enough, in my opinion, to acknowledge what's going on. So I think even if you're listening to this episode, then you do have that spark, I think, that interest in doing what Gaia's talking about. So that's the first step. Gaia, would you just outline a few thoughtful questions that people could ask themselves, like truly thoughtful, to undertake this wonderful exercise? But as I say, it's a bit alien for some people. So I think let's start with powerful questions.
So a question I really love to check in with myself on is, in this very moment, am I feeling expanded or contracted? So the thing I'm doing, for instance, if I'm writing a blog post or responding to an email or creating the strategy for my next campaign, right? Am I feeling expanded or contracted? If the answer is contracted, so contracted feels like it's in the box. It's got to be a certain way. It's got to be within a certain time. It feels limiting in some level, right? That's what stress feels like. Stress feels limiting, like we're in a box. So if in any way it feels contracting, then the next question is, what do I need to make it feel expansive? Like, what's missing, right? I rarely feel expansive when I'm doing my taxes, because I really hate doing my taxes. I think it's one of the most boring things to do as a business owner. That's why we have accountants. Thank God for them, right? Like, thank the goddess for them. But I still have to do my bit. So when I sit to do my taxes, the first thing I do is to connect to how doing my taxes can feel more expansive. And our perspective is everything. So our brain has no clue what the difference is between fact or fiction. It only knows to take instructions. So if we're looking at our taxes and saying, I really don't want to do this, this is boring, our brain will make it boring. If we look at our taxes and think, okay, this is going to take me 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes, I don't have to think about it again for X number of days or weeks or months, right? Now we're connecting to the reward, the personal reward, and the reward always has to be personal. So someone else might benefit from it, but that's already one step removed from our soul. It has to be a personal gain. So not thinking about having to do my taxes, to me, is a personal gain. I can fill that space with doing something I love, like hanging out with my kids, right? And that's a really good, simple thing to do throughout the day. Every time you're feeling a little bit of that weight, that pressure, the stress, is to say, okay, am I feeling contracted or expanded? Expanded feels giant and big, like anything is possible. I mean, most people will have experiences of expansion because their body, time, it doesn't exist anymore, right? You're in flow. And it's such a wonderful way to be. So we want more of that. I think I read somewhere that we must spend at least 60% of our day in flow in order to feel like we've had a good day. So if you're not in flow, ask yourself, what would it take right now for me to feel expansive, for me to be in that flow? Typically, it's the way we're looking at things. So find a better perspective.
Absolutely brilliant. And at this moment, hopefully people are still watching or listening. And at this moment, ask yourself, do you feel expansive? Do you feel like you're expanded? Expanded. Thank you so much. I do. Having picked up on the energy, I always invite guests with great energy. And, thank you so much for sharing yours with us, Gaia. Before we let you go, I believe you've contributed to a very special book. So do you want to tell us about it?
Yes. So this is the book. It's called Success Secrets for Wellbeing. And it's a co-authored book with quite a few other wonderful thought leaders. And we've all gathered together to write this book on basically how to live a better day, how to have more well-being in your day. And so my chapter is The Pursuit of Happiness Will Hurt You. And it really is about like the side of commercialism and that underlying current to make us believe we're not happy enough until we have whatever it is they're selling, right? So it's a book that really gives you quite a bit of insight into the first 4 steps of my 7-step methodology that takes you from existential to exponential. So existential is that part where we're like asking ourselves questions constantly, like, why isn't this working? Why is this good enough? Why am I feeling so unhappy? What should I do next? What comes after this? To exponential, which is that expanded flow state, which is, it doesn't matter because right now is perfect enough. And I'm just creating out of joy and peace and happiness and my own innate genius.
Well, I really, really appreciate you and your innate genius joining us today. There's so much more where that came from. So listeners, just please look at the bio, read the show notes, connect with Gaia. You will find her. Success Secrets for Wellbeing would be a really good place to start. And we really, really appreciate everybody who is aiming to be joyful and have that fire in their soul and stop the pursuit of happiness that actually leaves people unhappy. So that's what I got from today. Thank you so much, Gaia.
Thank you, Mindy. It's been such a pleasure to be on your show.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.